Welcome, Nick, to Metallarium Pages. It's a great pleasure to talk with you about Celestial Wizard, this new album Regenesis, and more things related to the metal world in general. So we started by asking, how are you doing today? How is the band in the last couple years? Because your previous album, Winds of the Cosmos, was released in 2022, and now we have this new album.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. We've been good. Very busy. I'm doing well as well. Thank you. Uh, we just finished our tour promoting the new album Regenesis,
Mhm.
and it's been good. The reception's been great so far. I think everybody feels like it's a good
Mhm.
next step in terms of the progression of the sound for the band, and I think everybody's really been enjoying the new material. So.
Amazing, amazing. So let's talk about the composition process. When do you start writing songs for this Regenesis? It was during the previous left sauce the sessions of the previous album, or it was well one, or perhaps one of the songs are rescue from the previous album. Who knows? And all the songs are new, or do you rescue any composition that left out for the previous one?
Sure. So there definitely was some odds and ends that didn't make it on the last album that I think we really liked the riffs or the sound and we wanted to incorporate that into, the new album. The last album we didn't find a way to do it the way we wanted, so we were able to sit down with it and get some more ears and eyes on it and decide what we wanted to do with it. Most of the material that's on Regenesis, the new album, is new. We ended up uh maybe 6 months prior to being in the studio, so probably early 2024.
Mhm.
We started writing most of the songs for Regenesis. I think the only one that was lasting material from the previous record was a song "Ride with Fire." The opening riff for that was one that we really liked, but it didn't have space on the
Okay.
Wind of the Cosmos. So
Mhm.
we rescued it, so to speak, and brought it over to this record. But yeah, we started writing most of the material early last year, and then we were able to get in the studio with it and truly refine it and shape it. And now it's out, and everyone can hear it.
Great, great, amazing for this new album. So now, well, the album was released a couple weeks ago. Now the album is releasing. A lot of people hearing. You received a lot of reviews and more things related. So how it was the reception for this Regenesis? Talking about the reviews, talking about the comments of the people. Well, you did the full tour promoting this last album, and for this one, and also, how do you take a bad review, for example?
So, I mean, the reception, the reviews, I think have been really positive. Most people, when they do like, the digital reviews or the web reviews, they'll give it like a scale of like out of 5 or out of 10. And it's been, you know, 4.5 or 4 out of 5 or, eights and nines out of 10. So that feels really good. Obviously when we make our music, we want to make the things that we enjoy playing. So, when things are received well by, the fans or the critics or people who are reviewing them, that feels extra good. Because we're really excited that people enjoy what we're making in the same way that we do. I mean, on tour, everybody really enjoys the music live. I think it's got a good energy. I think it engages with the crowd well. Um, a lot of the comments we've been getting are just like, wow, this is really, we feel like you've leveled up as a band, and that's awesome to hear. What I think about the reviews, I try, as an artist, it's really hard not to get emotional about the things that you make. Um,
Mhm.
so it is a ever evolving process of learning how to read these reviews and not take things super personally if people don't like certain aspects of the music, as well as not, get on an ego trip as well about the things that people really do enjoy. I just try to come at every review with a level head and be like, oh, thank you for taking the time to listen to the material and the music and give your thoughts. Like everybody interacts with music differently. There's not one review that's the same as the other. I'm very grateful that everyone has been thoughtful in the things that they say about the album, and that all those thoughts have really been mostly positive. Um, I can't really think off the top of my head of any truly
Mhm.
discouraging negative feedback that we've gotten. So that's really awesome. So we're just kind of riding that wave right now and happy that people enjoy the things that we enjoy enough to speak on them.
Hmm. Okay. Amazing. And well, in this one, it was amazing. So it was, and how it was the last tour that you have promoting this Regenesis about the reception of the people, hearing the new songs with the old ones.
Yeah, it was I mean the last tour was really good. We tried to have somewhat of a healthy mix of the old songs and the new songs in the set. We definitely pulled a lot of if we any of the old songs that we played were definitely ones that I think really stuck with people from the last album. And then worked in, I think when we were building our set list, we looked at, what songs are people listening to on our streaming platforms, and what do people want to hear live. And then also some of the songs that were like, oh, this would be a really fun one to play live. We really like the riffs or the chorus or whatever it is in that song. And yeah, I think people really enjoyed it. I think we built out some set lists for the shows that covered a lot of the newer songs that I think people were excited to hear. And I think the feedback that we got after those performances, everybody was really excited and really impressed with uh, kind of the juxtaposition of the new material and the old material. I think they felt that it stuck together really well and was fun to watch. So
Great, amazing. So now, well, this is your third record on your career. So how do you feel about this new record compared to the previous one that is an Easter Awakening? Usually, I ask this one because sometimes many musicians thinks that this well, the last album is the best work to date, but for another musician, the first album, or for the few, or the fanatic or the public, usually the first album is the great stone of the career of the band, this kind of thing. So how do you feel about this conception that for the some fans, yes, the first album is the great, but for the band, is the last one the best?
yeah. So I mean, in terms of going all the way back to Sinister Awakening, that was uh I think that was a very formative album for us, but maybe not a incredible album. We were still kind of learning how to write and how to record. And the people we worked with and the place we recorded was, somewhat of an amateur setup. And I think some of the mixing and some of the production quality kind of reflects that. I think from the perspective of when people are like, "Oh, the first record is the best," from a band. I think people definitely felt that a little bit with Winds of the Cosmos. I think that was a strong, like true jumping off point for us. We worked really hard on it, and we had pulled in some people who were, some industry professionals to help, engineer and master and mix that record. And I think that really showed. But there were definitely some elements of that. I think we were still learning. We still felt pretty new as a band and didn't really fully understand what we wanted to do with it yet. This most recent record, I think at least everyone in the band, we feel like that's our favorite work so far. And I think that kind of just comes from, our, as records go, it's kind of snapshots of your musicianship and your capabilities at the time. And of course, we have learned the most and have grown the most by this most recent record. So I think we all feel like our best performances are on the newest material, just because, we've grown even more since the last record. But I think in terms of the fan base and the critics, I think most people are uh, happy to say that it is a step forward and an improvement on the last one. They really enjoyed the last record. I think people feel like the production quality and the songwriting specifically is tighter and clearer on this new album. I think how much people enjoy every record is a matter of taste. I think sonically they're a little different. This one's definitely like a very high production, very, very direct produced sound versus Winds of the Cosmos is maybe a little more raw. So it kind of just depends on what people enjoy personally. But I think for the most part, everybody feels like Regenesis, this new album, is probably our best so far. Our newest achievement. So
Mm. Oh, okay, okay. Well, now taking a look back from your since your first album and A Sinister Awakening, at that moment you released that album independently.
yeah.
Now the second one, Winds of the Cosmos, was released independently first, but then Scarlet Records released it for the whole world. Then you that now you are so Stretch continue to release this new Regenesis with the Scarlet Records, a label from Italy. So how
Yeah.
it was the enter to Scarlet Records? It was they approached to you, you approached them, or as usually Money Band sends a promo copy by WAV or by me or by digital copy to see if this label. So, and did you try it with another label before Scarlet Records?
So when we released Winds of the Cosmos independently, the gentleman who did our press release, John Asher,
Mhm.
I think he did a really good job and got us kind of in the eyes of a lot of new people. And once we did some, video premieres and people were hearing the first singles, we started getting emails from all sorts of labels, all the, very, very small labels, very independent labels, all the way to, some bigger ones. And one that really stuck out to us was Scarlett. They emailed us, I think, like a month or so after our music video for Ice Realm debuted. And they had the vibe that we wanted. And then we did some talking and some emailing back and forth. And it seemed like, a partnership with them was going to be really good. So we worked out a deal and we signed with them, and they've been awesome to us. They've been really cool. Very they're very good with their artists. They don't try to take any they don't try to control any of the creativity in the band. They trust the bands to make stuff that people will enjoy and that is good. And yeah, they've been very, very kind to us and very um thorough with everything that they have uh been promoting, and we couldn't be happier. These guys are great, and they we're so grateful that they emailed us a few years ago and we were able to release Wins with them and then Regenesis as well, and everything's been great.
Great.
So yeah.
Great. Amazing for this, Nick. And well, other thing that captured my attention, especially for the name of the album, because it's
Mhm.
Regenesis. And mostly when you hear the name could be just a different kind of metal. But when you can see the cover, like for me it's a classic 80s cover. It's not like 90s or 2000s covers. But when you hear
Right.
the music, you have a lot of influences, power, death metal, heavy metal, you mix everything. That's a good thing because that's something this kind of approach on your music brings you a personality compared with 1,000 records in the world. So and then this one, so why do you decide to just bring all these mixtures with heavy trash death metal, melodic death metal, but then you decide to link this album with the cover art? That's a cover art because when I remember like when I see the cover set and Angelo from Scarlet sent me the promotional. Since the beginning, I think this band is a heavy metal band. It's not heavy metal or speed metal or this kind of not the music that that you have approached on this record. So, who came with the idea for this album to bring this cover art with the kind of music that you play?
Yeah. um I mean, I guess at the end of the day, I could be to blame for that, but I think really as a band we try not to put ourselves in a box, so to speak, of like, we play this style of music. We need to make sure it sounds this way and looks this way and very, fits the molds of that genre. I think when we're writing and when we're creating the music, we kind of just make the things that we think are cool and that we enjoy hearing and that we enjoy playing, and all of us have such different influences that it kind of, that, death metal and that power metal and that, all these different genres kind of squish and create themselves into something new, that is our sound, and that's really awesome. And I think for the album cover too, we didn't so much give it thought of like, will it translate to the music more so than like, is it engaging? Like, is this, if I saw this on the, on the shelf at a record store, would I want to pick it up and take a look? And just our artist, Dan Goldsworthy, he does such cool dynamic art. We kind of just gave him a loose framework and let him run wild with it, and he made something very cool. So we didn't necessarily give much thought to does the cover look like the music sounds, more so than is it cool and dynamic, and do we enjoy looking at it? Because at the end of the day, like if we don't enjoy what we play and if we don't enjoy the way that things look, like, you know,
Mm.
then we're not having fun with it, and we're not doing it for the right reasons. So, with that album cover, more so than anything, we just wanted it to grab people's attention and to look really cool. And hopefully the music works with it enough that people don't feel as though it's disjointed. And if they do, apologies. We just wanted to have fun with it, really. That's the answer. We wanted to have fun with it. We thought it was really cool. So there you go.
Great, great. No, no, I understand completely about this one. So, and well, the other concept. So, how do you, and this one, but because this one is like well, how do you relate the music with the cover art? Because you said it just I enjoyed it, the visual part, but how do
Yeah,
you relate the concept of the album Regenesis? Because Regenesis is meant to like reborn, something like
right.
that. But when you see the cover, it's more like a country. If you can see, it's more like country band, something like that. So how do you relate the name of the album with the cover art? Because I'm trying to relate. It's like it's not possible to relate sometimes.
Yeah. And that may be where we have maybe somewhat of a disconnect, and it happens to the best of them.
Mm,
But initially, when we were coming up with the idea for the cover art, Pale Horse, the opening track of the album, was
mhm,
kind of what influenced it. And then I think later on in the process, after we'd already, had Dan working on the art and we didn't want to pivot, the band kind of decided we wanted a more general title. Uh, so we went with the final track on the album, Regenesis. Um, but I mean the thematic, the lyrical elements in Pale Horse, as well as some of the other songs, kind
mhm,
of deal with this cycle of like death and then rebirth, and it just,
mhm,
with each song it kind of focuses on one or the other,
mhm,
sometimes both. So we felt that even though
mhm,
the art on the cover, the idea was it was supposed to be somewhat of the like a Western take on the biblical,
mhm.
like death riding in on a pale horse.
Okay.
So the death and rebirth, the regenesis, I think in our brains somewhere it met up at one point. But um, yeah, it is true that the name of the album doesn't so much relate to the album art, but I think if we really sit and chew on it, we can maybe draw a parallel if we had to. But that's kind of where it started. Is it was going to be Pale Horse, and then it became Regenesis, and we kind of wrote our own narrative as to how it fits in to
Mhm.
make
Okay.
it work. So
Okay. Okay. I understand completely for this, Nick. Well, now let's talk about more about the promotion for this new album. What kind of plans do you have for this new album? Perhaps you will embark on more tours, or perhaps you will prepare more videos, or who knows? You are already working in a full album for Celestial Wizard. Who knows?
yeah, I mean it's kind of all of the above. As musicians, we're constantly, you know,
Mhm.
creating and doing these, if you want to call them musical sketches, where we'll just, record a few riffs every now and then. So, in terms of writing for the next album, we definitely got some things in place. For promoting this one, we just finished a tour. We're looking at booking more tours. We're in the process of doing a bunch of booking for that. We have some festivals coming up that we have some appearances at. Um, we have some videos scheduled. They're on the books for,
Mhm.
within the next, month or so. Some playthrough videos, just a bunch of, these cool um, accompaniments or accessories to the album itself. The we've been doing. We're nerds at heart. We enjoy the game Magic the Gathering. So we've been doing promotional events at game stores where we meet up with fans and play games and talk about the album, and we have like prizes, and people can buy the record there and stuff like that. So a bunch of different things that we're doing to really get this, the interest, maintained for this album. And I think the best part of it all is playing live. We love the tours, we love the festivals, we love being on the road, meeting new people. The energy of a live music environment is unmatched. Even, in from the smaller venues all the way to the bigger ones. So, um, I mean, really, we're leaning into the live aspect and just kind of, being in person with people, I think, is where those connections really made. Metal's such a community-driven genre, and we're trying to be part of that as much as we can. So,
Oh, okay. Amazing for this, Nick. So, and well, talking about especially one thing, as I said a few minutes ago, you have a special mixture, like heavy power death metal, melodic death metal, and the people obviously struggle with this situation because I read a lot of, I just see a lot of labels. Now the band plays power melodic metal, other bands plays thrash metal. So the people is trying to label the band because it's the people do. So trying to label the
yeah.
band for the stuff that she wants or he wants or they want in general. So for this one, how do you label the music for Celestial Wizard? Because it's a difficult one. Because you have, as I said, you have a lot of styles there. It's not possible to just say you play power metal. You play, you play for this one. You play. You play heavy metal or you play thrash metal. You just play a lot of styles in just one in this album, and this album is more like 45 minutes, so there is a lot of textures here.
Yeah, I mean, it is hard to label the genre that we play in. And I think that's a good and a bad thing. I think it feels new and unique to people, but also at the same time
Mhm,
it's hard to describe.
mhm,
I think most times when we are, talking about music or
mhm,
trying to describe it to somebody, we'll call it like blackened power metal. So like power
mhm,
metal, but with a more aggressive or heavier sound to it. Definitely the melodic death metal element gets thrown around a lot as well. Um, I've heard like blackened power death. Like it's basically people just take like the first uh, adjective of all these genres and just squish them together. But I don't know if there's really maybe that's our new task is to come up with a word that makes sense for it and make it concise. But I don't know if there's a specific like death metal or power metal. If there's one word genre within metal that describes us yet. I think the combination of styles is unique, and that's really cool for us. Um, we just have to figure out a true exact way to say it. Right now, we just kind of take the few very obvious influences we have and stick them together. So black and power metal or like power death or something like that is kind of how we describe it at the moment.
Okay, okay. So we are close to this interview, Nick. And for this now talking about this, well, one thing. So now recently you play live shows for this in this new album Genesis. And as you can see, a lot of promoters around the world, not just in US, so they're just trying to avoid expenses because they try to just not hire more people, not using amps. They're trying to connect directly to the console with plugins because it's more easy. It's a cheaper way to do a gig now
Yeah.
for a band especially. So now there is the new way for a lot of bands around the world. When you bring a band here, the band is not using amps anymore. Completed the console with plugins or with one laptop. Just one people handle everything. No more people involved of the promotion. Just the great now, just the huge bands. Sodom, Creator, or these or the huge bands in general has a crowd for the amps, for the etc. things in the live presentation. So for you, what's your opinion about this new, well, this not this like new movement, and will be the movement in general for the future presentation for a lot of bands? There obviously is for more, it's more cheap for the for the promoters, but for some bands does not agree with this because they love to play with amps, with some guides, some this kind of situation.
Yeah. I mean, I remember the first few tours we did, we had the amps and we had the cabs and all of the big gear. And I think over time, like currently taking a step back, currently live, we do it with the plugins. We do it, we all have our I'm not sure exactly the word for it, but like profilers or like amp sims. We use the Helix uh series of products from line 6. So they all are just direct in signals. And I think there's good and bad. I think to a certain degree, having those direct signals straight into the boards, and coming through the PA and the speakers, I think it's very clear and it's very crisp. And I think the sound is, it's the same every time. When you have the cabs and the amplifiers and you mic them, you put the microphone on them as you do with a live setting. It's never the same every two shows. But there's something to be said for the uniqueness of, the amps, and every setting is different, and it definitely gives it a more true raw feel playing through the amplifiers rather than these plugins and stuff. From a touring standpoint, it is nice to have, I guess you'd call it, these smaller rigs. We don't tour with these big amplifiers and stuff anymore. We're able to save space. It is more cost effective. It is cheaper. And I think it helps us tour more sustainably. We're not, hurting our backs every night hauling the cabs. We don't have a road crew with us yet on tour. So anything we do is all us in the band. And I think we try to just do that um, we just try to make things easier on ourselves. And I think the sound that we achieve, and the tones that we've shaped with our plugins and our amp modelers and stuff, I think really do work well live. I know some of the other bands we tour with, they did bring amplifiers and cabs and stuff, and that was really cool as well. I think sometimes when we play much, much smaller venues, if it's a smaller town or just a unique circumstance, it is nice to have those cabs, because not all the time does the venue have the accommodations necessary for the hardware that we have. But I think it is unfortunately the future. I think you know I think consistency in sound is important for a lot of venues and a lot of promoters, and I think having those plugins really lends itself to that. And I think for touring artists, it makes things more efficient and easier to tour. And I think that's kind of what we need right now, is to get more bands touring and playing live, and to build that live set again. So you don't have to, get a super big van and tow a trailer, or, have all these, big pieces that you have to bring with you every night. There's positives and negatives to both, but I think the future is amp profilers and plugins. I think we're going to see a lot more of that as time goes on, for sure. I know
Yeah.
that's where we're at as a band. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the future.
yeah,
Even reduce cost a lot for the promoters. You don't need to hire a lot amps, and you can go directly to the board with just
yep.
plug in or connect it directly. Well. So, and one of the last questions for this interview, Nick. So, as you can see, there is a lot of technical people in the world. Also, your music is so technical because you have mix a lot of styles. You need to practice a lot with instrument and hear a lot of music to do that. That's not
Yep.
possible if you try to do, for example, death metal. You just hear kind of a chorus, the side. Even the death metal is so technical since the beginning, but now all the time the extreme music brings this conception of the technicality in the especially in the metal, because if you hear heavy metal, if you hear thrash metal, there is no enough technicality on this one. Either we are talking about for these albums from Coroner or Megadeth that are technical trash at that moment. But now there is so much technical now in the world. So there is a good musician, there is a good records, there is a lot of things. Everything is good now with the instrument, with the drums, bass, singers, etc., etc. And you can see a lot of channels in YouTube. It's not post just one. You can see a lot of channels. So, and in this situation, how do you see now this perfection into the extreme music, especially in the metal, because the extreme music brings this perfection to the music, especially in the metal. So what kind of opinion do you have for this technicality, over technicality, and the cleanness into the extreme music in general? And because now there's no bad record, sounds ugly, sounds bad, not like the 80s or 90s. I was there. I remember five or six albums. Three albums sounds bad, the other three albums sounds great. That's completely normal. It was a time that a lot of people trying to experiment, try to do something with the music. But now you can see there's no bad records, there's no bad musicians, all plays. Either way, you have the support of the studio to sound amazing your record.
Right. I mean, I think, yeah, I think you nailed it, that there's not really, bad sounding records anymore, with the advancements in technology and the, just so readily available, like high production quality. I
Mhm,
think with the technical playing and everything so perfect, and there's so much out there of just like, very, very pristine, polished, virtuosic like guitar players, these prodigies. I think what's going to, I think twofold. I think one, albums are maybe going to start sounding more unique again. I think people are kind of tired of the perfect sound anymore, and they're going to add some more flavor back into it. Maybe sound a little worse, but it might have some character. And I think the other part of it is playing with emotion. I think there's a lot of like, especially in extreme music, a lot of these like very technically advanced, guitar licks and playing, and everything is very impressive and difficult to, you know, play, and it's very grand.
mhm,
But I think sometimes people get lost in the technical aspect of it and aren't really playing with feeling anymore. And I think that is almost the most important part of being a musician, is playing from here, playing, from your heart, and creating something with power and emotion that's not just, wow, look at how fast this guy can play, but man, like that solo really sticks with me. I mean, recently with the passing of Ozzy, I've seen a lot of covers of people playing No More Tears
mhm,
solo, or the Mama I'm Coming Home solo, and neither of those are very um, you know, technically proficient solos. They're very slow, they're very intentional.
mhm,
Um, but I think they carry a lot of emotional gravity, and I think they really stick with people. And I think we're going to start seeing more people, no one's one-upping each other anymore. I think people have kind of hit the ceiling of what's possible with playing guitar, in terms of just like how fast and how technical you can be. And I think we're going to see a lot more people playing with heart, and, not necessarily playing as fast as they can, but, trying to speak through the instrument. And I think that's more important to me than playing technical and playing fast. I mean, obviously you want to practice and be good and not be bad at your instrument. That's one thing. But I think to focus on how something feels and how you engage with it, rather than is it impressive enough, I think is more important. So,
Okay, okay. Well, Nick, we are right to the sad moment of this interview. I hope you enjoyed this one like me. This new record, Regenesis, is a great one. We put a great score in our web. Congratulations on this new record. It's an amazing one. And perhaps do
thank
you want to add something to your, obviously, Latin American fans that expect someday the Latin tour here, who knows? And obviously, Metallica followers.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I knew more than just English. Unfortunately, that's a very American trait of not knowing my languages. But I'm so grateful to everybody who listens to the album. And, as we ramp up our plans, I'm hoping to, be in your countries, in your cities, and get to engage with you in person, whoever's listening to the record, and, just really have that connection. And right now, I'm just very grateful that people are listening to it and are, you know, sharing it and talking about it. And, this this band wouldn't be anywhere without people listening to the album. And I'm very grateful that, all different people in all different countries are listening to it, especially in, the Latin American and South American, communities and cities and countries. It's awesome. So really thank everybody for listening, and thank you for having me on this interview.